Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Walk. I'm Tony Leon, your host. This is the place where you'll be enlightened, encouraged, and empowered to work out your own salvation without fear of being led astray. For we walk by faith and not by sight. And faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And God's word is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And as we go on this journey together, we're going to follow the Lamb, Jesus Christ, wherever he goes, and we shall do so in spirit and in truth. Now, before we get started, I'd like for you all to subscribe, hit that notification bell, like, share, and comment. And if you're so inclined, now before I do this, I want to make sure we have this right, okay? Because I want you all to take into account that we do have an email. So if you have any comments, concerns, questions, even complaints, even prayer requests, send it to enduretobesaved@gmail.com. That is a number 2, a letter B, saved@gmail.com. So let's get into our program with COVID Corner. I'll do it. Yeah, there you go. So we got to buckle up for safety. Okay, that's what we got to do, folks. And the reason why is because we're in for a bumpy ride. Now, I just want you all to be aware of what's happening here. Okay, because there's a couple things I want to cover, and it kind of gets my mind in order on what I want to cover because of what just happened. I'm not going to go into that. Okay, so COVID Corner right here. Look at the numbers. This is the U.S. numbers. Pretty bad. 10,755,754. Okay, that's the cases that we have currently as of this morning, right? Mm-hmm. And the deaths is 244,448. Terrible. This is bad. I'm just letting you all know we need to buckle up for safety because those numbers are here because of poor leadership. I can't say it enough. Here is the world numbers right here. 53 million. Wow. You know that's astronomical. And 1.3 million for the deaths. But see, I wanted to show you all, like I just said for the U.S., poor leadership. The worldwide numbers, again, poor leadership. For some reason, I think the world kind of follows after America's lead. Well, I think we don't have to worry about that now because right now we're on it, hopefully sooner than later, that we can be able to lead by example. Now, right here, this is the curve, and it shows you our first wave, second wave, third wave. We're in the third wave, in case you all didn't know that. These are the cases, the deaths, and another thing, I didn't mention this, now I'm gonna mention it right now, the hospitalized. Why is this so important? Because we need to think about this. I was just having a conversation with my brother-in-law because the hospitals are being filled up. This is a bad thing because if the hospitals are filled up and those people who have COVID need to be hospitalized, they're out of luck. They're at home and they're just basically on their way to a bumpy ride. and I'm telling you all right now, a lot of people who need to be hospitalized, you're at the stage of the COVID where it's starting to do what you call its final lap. That's what's happening. I mean, let me paint the picture a little bit clearer. If you had COVID and you are in the place where you need to be hospitalized, you're in the final lap. That's where medical professionals have to just really just buckle down and basically say, you know, we gotta just save this person, like you're a cold black type of thing. And what's gonna happen is now you're in the fight for your life, okay? But if you can't be hospitalized and you're in that state, it's a pretty bad thing. I don't need to explain to you all that those numbers that we saw are going to go up even more. Not for those people who contracted the disease, for those people who are going to die from the disease. Now, I want you all to see this right quick. It says a U.S. breaks hospitalization records. New York and other states add restrictions. Okay? This is going to be bad right here because I'm looking at it like, what is really going on? Now, this came from New York Times. It says the United States has been shattering daily records for new cases, pushing the 7-day average to more than 123,000 per day as of Tuesday. According to a New York Times database, for the first time, new cases surpassed 140,000 on Wednesday. Now look at this. And 65,368 people were hospitalized across the country with COVID-19 on Wednesday, according to the COVID tracking project, the largest number at any point during the pandemic. I want to read just that last part again, and I want to see if you all catch this, because I know some people are going to watch this later on, but for those who are watching it now and later on, you all can send me a comment and tell me if you all picked up the same thing I picked up. It says, and 65,368 people were hospitalized across the country with COVID-19 on Wednesday. To me, that sounds like 65,368 people were hospitalized across the country with COVID-19 on Wednesday. I wanted to read it a different way, and I hate to spend too much time on this, but I just want clarity. I don't have all the answers. But that number, according to what I just read, and it's from the New York Times, they are saying, from what I'm picking up, they're saying this number, this 65,000 number who are hospitalized, they were all hospitalized on Wednesday. I don't want to believe that if that's what I just read. Me and my wife were talking about this because I'm thinking, no, maybe that's the number that we have as of Wednesday. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but tell me what you all think about it. And if you're not clear again, I'm going to read it again. And 65,368 people were hospitalized across the country with COVID-19 on Wednesday. According to the COVID tracking project, the largest number at any point during the pandemic. Maybe it means that's the largest number that we had hospitalized as of Wednesday. You know, maybe they need to talk to their editors. I'm hoping that's the case. Anyway, okay, so let's continue with the numbers. Oh, real quick. Oh, he showed it already. Okay, look. So you have, I used to do this. Look at who's the top contender for the COVID numbers highest in the country. North Dakota, batting 1,000. They still number one. South Dakota, her sister, number two. They still going at it. What's up with that third number? What's up with the third state? Look at that. That's Iowa. All of a sudden, we changed from, who was it for? Let me say, Montana. It was North Dakota. I mean, we got North Dakota, South Dakota. But I remember Montana, Wisconsin, boom, Iowa. This is getting crazy. We now have over 34 to 37 states that numbers are going crazy. Okay, that's most of the nation. Hello. Okay, I want to cover a couple other things right now. This came from Reuters. Is that how you pronounce it? Reuters.com. It's talking about the COVID numbers. Like, you know how like you got people who, okay, don't show that yet. I want to check this out. You know how like you can get COVID, okay, and you need to be hospitalized, okay, and they're trying to so-called save you, you know, so you won't die. They're not thinking about the other things, the complications, or shall I say, the so-called battle scars that you develop. They're just trying to save your life so that you can not have the disease anymore, not have the virus running through your veins, so to speak. But what's happening is people who do recover, they recover with those battle scars. These are some of the battle scars. It affects these major organs, your brain, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys, and the list goes on and on. But what's happening is, let me focus on the brain. This is bad. Okay, shut it. It says 1 in 5 COVID-19 patients develop mental illness within 90 days study. Okay, what does that mean? Let me just break it down real quick. What 1 in 5 people who got COVID, okay? That means if they had got over the COVID, this 1 in 5 means 20%. 20% of those people who got COVID and got over COVID basically developed a mental illness within 3 months. This is bad, you all. Let me read this. Okay, like I said, this is 1 in 5 COVID-19 patients develop mental illness within 90 days. Okay, so going back over this article that was from London, Reuters, it says many COVID-19 survivors are likely to be at greater risk of developing mental illness. Psychiatrists said on Monday, after a large study found 20%, that's the 1 in 5, of those infected with the coronavirus are diagnosed with a psychiatric order within 90 days. Anxiety, depression, and insomnia were most common among recovered COVID-19 patients in the study who developed mental health problems. And the researchers also found significantly higher risk of dementia, a brain impairment condition. Okay, pause for a moment. Anxiety, depression, and insomnia. That's what I heard. I heard of definitely the insomnia. How people who recovered from the COVID-19 weren't able to sleep. They stayed up and they were like, they couldn't sleep. It's just terrible because a lot of them went to other things like, the barbiturates and so forth. So that's another problem, how people get on the drugs because of this. Okay. Anxiety and depression, again, drugs. So this is pretty bad. The 1 in 5, 20%. It says, and I quote, people who have been worried that COVID-19 survivors will be at greater risk of mental health problems, and our findings show this to be likely. Yes, said Paul Harrison, a professor of psychiatry at Britain's Oxford University. Okay, it says the study also found that people with a pre-existing this is messed up. People with a pre-existing mental illness were 65% more likely to be diagnosed with COVID-19 than those without. Okay, a double whammy. This is messed up. You have the person who has a mental illness, who gets the COVID. Why? Because you have a mental illness? That's what it's basically saying. So you're more than likely to get COVID if you are really... You're more than likely to get the COVID if you have a mental illness. But if you had got COVID, you're likely to get a mental illness. Did y'all hear that? If you have a mental illness, you're likely to get COVID. I'm not going to go into the details and numbers, but if you had COVID, you're likely to develop a mental illness. That's what it's saying, right? That's what it's saying. This is messed up. It says, like I said, mental health specialists not directly involved with the study said its findings add to growing evidence that COVID-19 can affect the brain and mind, two separate things, increasing the risk of a range of psychiatric illnesses. Okay, look, the brain, physical, the mind, the function. So here you are in trouble because you're thinking that you maybe had some issues in your brain and now they can be healed physically. Maybe that's the case. Maybe. But you also have another problem because now you can't think properly. Your mind is affected. I mean, there was a study a long time ago. Phineas, that's his name, Phineas. I remember that. Somehow he worked in a coal mine or whatever, and then he had a projectile because of the explosion went through his brain. He survived, but he wasn't the same after that. Before he was more cool, docile, or whatever you want to call it. But then after that, he was so agitated and aggravated and he was hostile and things like that. So it does affect people in their judgment. This is something to think about, people. Okay, so I want you all to think about some other things. Like, let's think about some tips because we really want to avoid this thing, okay? So let's think about some tips. Right here, here's some tips that I wanted to cover. Wear clear safety glasses. My wife said that one. But check this out. Safety glasses come also in shades. Me personally, I wear shades. Let me give you an example. These are my actual safety glasses that I wear when I do work and stuff, okay? Safety glasses protect you. I know they look like sunglasses, all right? They look cool or whatever you want to call it. But check this out. Same pair, just clear. Yeah. Now, why am I bringing this out? Because some people, and I don't know if you all noticed this, they wear this so-called face shield, okay? Looking like they came out some type of movie, like Outbreak or whatever, right? I'm not knocking that. You can do what you want, to each his own. The thing is, this big old safety shield, you're thinking, will protect me from what? Spittle? Yes, because safety glasses does the same thing. But what's happening? This part is exposed, right? No, because you're going to be wearing your mask. The thing is, my wife and I have noticed this, and I'm pretty sure some of you all have as well. People are wearing these face shields, no mask. Now, what's wrong with that picture? The face shield will protect you from spittle and things like that. But COVID is airborne. It won't protect you that way if you don't have a mask. So please, people, wear your mask and wear it properly. Over the bridge of your nose to your chin. Okay, so frequently wash cloth face masks. Okay, you're gonna wear your mask, but you're gonna wash them. Now, this is a way that my wife and I wash ours. We'll take the mask. We have a bunch of them. We have hot water, okay? And then we take the soap, so to speak, the detergent, okay? And then we'll have our sanitizer, our Lysol sanitizer. And what we do is we don't scrub it because you don't want to destroy the fibers and the integrity of it. What you want to do is you want to press it. Because that's what you're doing. You're just agitating it. And then you're doing that maybe for about a minute or two. And then you rinse it. You rinse it well and hang them dry. That's what you do. And you keep the integrity of the mask. But the thing is, you got to do that every time you use it. So let's say if you have a bunch of cloth masks, then you can just wash them all at once. And that way you don't have to keep washing them every day. We had tons of cloth masks. I think Hanes is one of the main companies that we get ours from. But then they have other ones out there. And then wash your face. After you come in, wash your face. Okay, you've been breathing all day. People have been breathing around you. You want to make sure that you wash your face. And then wash your hands. Remember that 20-second rule? And then you're clean. Boom. And matter of fact, I'm surprised you didn't put that on there. If you're so inclined, you can wear gloves. My wife and I wear those nitrile gloves, okay? You got the latex as well, but some people are actually allergic to latex. So that's some of the tips that I have for the COVID. Let's go into Holiness Walk real quick. Now, let's focus on fluids. So, I talked about fluids last week and the week before. And I'm gonna keep talking about fluids because here you have some ways to get more fluids and more water in your life, especially during this so-called COVID time, cold and flu season. Soups, stews, and beverages, okay? I know some people say, I don't like the taste of water. I would say, hey, no argument there because I'm looking at how can I help you? I like to meet people where they are. Give them what they need based upon the level of wholeness they want to achieve. That's it. That's where I stand. Because I'm not here to judge you, but I'm letting you all know we need to be hydrated. We need to keep our fluids up. Why? Because there's this thing called the humors. Okay? It's weird because when I saw how it was spelled, I'm thinking maybe it's spelled a different way, like, a French way. It's humors, like H-U-M-O-R, like humor, ha ha ha. But it's not humors. These are the fluids of the body. Okay, one humor in particular is the phlegm, or let's be more specific, the lymph. And then the lymph, this is the prime central area that you want to keep fluid. Okay, I'm not talking about fluid in your lungs, no, because that's like the, I went brain blank already. But you don't want pneumonia and things like that, okay? But you do want to have enough fluids in your system. And one way to do that is to make sure that you get it any way you can. Now, a lot of times people do eat foods, casseroles, things of that nature, pizza, whatever you want to call it. And they're dense foods. Most of it's processed that we eat, okay? I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying that why don't you incorporate soups? Matter of fact, a lot of times they have these packages of soups, okay, packets. And then when you add water, remember you're adding water, fluids, and you can be able to eat that. And it will fill you. The satiety level's there. Hey, that's a good thing. Stews, all that kind of stuff. Soups and stews are in the same category. Okay, you just put that on there. But beverages. Okay, I said this before. If you like to drink certain type of beverages, let's say you like to drink coffee. I'm not knocking a person who drinks coffee. I'm just saying that coffee is not one of those beverages that I will promote. I don't condone drinking coffee as your prime beverage. But people do drink coffee. Okay, or tea. Like I drink a lot of tea. But the thing is, if you're going to drink these beverages, start thinking about diluting them. Why? Because you want to get more fluids. If you don't like the taste of water, so to speak, because water don't really have a taste, but some waters are probably not as good as others. If you can start diluting your fluids, like there's some beverages that I drink and I say, wow, that's kind of sugary. It might not even have that much sugar. It's just that it tastes sweet. I like to dilute it because it's almost like liquid diabetes. You don't want that. Okay. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I do want you all to think about getting more fluids, especially around this cold and flu season, because we want to help that humerus. You want to have low viscosity. You want to be able to lower that saturation point that you can be able to get sick. Real quick, if a person feels like they're coming down with something, okay, and you drink more fluids, more water, what's going to happen is you're going to start feeling better. It's just one of those things. And why do you feel better? Because now all that waste byproducts that your body normally produces is going to be able to be flushed out through the eliminative pathways like it should. It's just like that. We always produce waste. It's just that you don't want that saturation point for all that waste. And it just be floating around. No, it needs to go out. Okay. So keep that in mind. That's the reason why I'm focusing on fluids. Okay. Let's go into our topic of the day. Now we are on number 3, part 3. Okay. And that will be the, yeah, there you go. Sorry. Okay. America's Dark Past, part 3. All right. So this is where we're going to kind of go into a little footage. I like to do this part because what I noticed is, in case you already noticed, YouTube has a thing where there's a copyright thing. Now, I've been flagged twice. And the reason why is because I wasn't sure. What is it? You know, if you're using content, can you use content? You know, like that's what I wanted to know. And you can use content, but you have to use it in certain ways. Like I'm still got the glasses on. I forgot. Anyway, it's like you can use the content in several ways. And one way in particular is commentary. That's what I'm doing. I'm kind of acting like a journalist, you know, and I do a little commentary about a lot of things. But there's another way you can use footage too, and that's through, you know, being a critic. Like you can criticize things, you know, and I think I've done both. Okay. But I got flagged for the critic thing. If y'all can remember back when I talked about creation of chance. But it's just one little segment, and I could either take it out or I can follow YouTube's guideline and say, don't monetize that episode. Fine. I don't have to monetize it. I'm not trying to monetize it anyway, but I am going to be monetizing all of the episodes after the live presentation. So you get live, no commercials and none of that. Afterwards, I'm going to be working on that. Okay, so what we're going to start covering is a lot of footage from other different things. I think it's good because commentary is great. So we're going to cover today this video that was on PBS. I thought it was great because the focus was, oh, can you bring it to me? And we're going to play it. And this is the intro. Yeah. See. The rise and fall of Jim Crow. PBS. I think it's a 4-part series, I believe. Okay. But we're not going to cover every aspect of Jim Crow. I wish we could have. I can talk all day. I'm not going to do that to you all. But you all can check that video out. It's on PBS. Matter of fact, this one was on YouTube. Remember, the rise and fall of Jim Crow. I think it was like 55 minutes. So we're going to kind of go over a couple of points that I thought was interesting, and I'm going to comment on a couple of points. I really would like to hear some feedback because you know how we have this America's dark past. It's dark, it is, but I want it to be encouraging. Like, yeah, we had a dark past, but remember, I always say this: let's remember the past so we won't repeat the past. So let's go on to the next segment because we need to know what Jim Crow's all about. I think it's not humorous at all. It's in my opinion, I think it's kind of like terrible, but we need to learn this. We need to stop ignoring it now. Okay. This is for real. Okay. I don't care what race you are in. America has a dark past and we need to Expose and reveal. Expose the dark past, and we need to reveal the fact that, hey, we got a problem. There has to be some solutions, but we got to come and reason together. This is explaining the Jim Crow.
Come listen, all you gals and boys, I'm just from Tuckahoe. I'm going to sing a little song. My name's Jim Crow. Wheel about and turn about and do just so. Every time I wheel about, I jump Jim Crow. I went down to the river.
In 1836, Jim Crow is born. He begins his strange career as a malicious minstrel caricature of a black man, created by a white man to amuse white audiences. Jim Crow would come to symbolize one of the most tragic eras of race relations in American history, a time deeply rooted in promise and contradiction. 1865, 4 million Americans, slaves simply because they were born black, were now free. But in little over a decade, that promise was gone, replaced by a rigid system of laws designed to keep blacks from experiencing any of their newly achieved rights. It would be known as the era of Jim Crow, the American form of racial apartheid.
Okay, so look, this is kind of like breaking it down, summing it up. And in a way, I'm kind of glad they did start with that, because people say Jim Crow. Some people just actually don't know. I think when I first heard the term Jim Crow, I wasn't sure exactly either, back in the day. But when you put it together, it spells this real brief. When I say there, I'm talking about them, the white people of that era that lived down south, okay? Even though that's not exactly correct, that's more like giving you just a basis of it. Their view of us, and you saw it, like some buffoon, bubbling idiot, that basically there as someone who is just good for nothing but entertainment. That's why I look at a lot of black entertainers as more like a, man, if we can just come together and learn some things about our past and how we're trying to perpetuate a problem. I'm not knocking black entertainment. I'm just looking at the fact is that every time they basically clapping, I keep thinking about Jim Crow, because we're good for nothing except for entertainment and to work for them, be subjected to them. When I say them, I'm talking about white America who has that mentality, because it's kind of hard to say, because not all white people have that mentality. But I had a lot of white friends, bosses and things like that. And for some reason, I think they try to a certain degree to not have that white superiority. I'll give anybody A for effort. So let's get past that. I'm talking about those people who are entrenched in this ideology that we are beneath them, or we should stay in our place. Now, 4 million plus African Americans who were enslaved, were released and freed. The white Southerners, some of them lived up north, and it's weird because it's like they did not take that too well. They looked at it as, you know what? Y'all still need to stay in your place. So let me leave it at that, and we're going to keep going through this because it's still painting a picture that I think everyone needs to understand. Roll it.
My dad said, as long as you're living in this South, you're going to have to go to the back door in this town. Now, you just settle for that. He said, but the one thing I want you to swear and promise to me, that you will never get used to it.
I'm not ashamed of the segregated and Jim Crow experience, all because we were able to devise techniques for survival that permitted us to abide our time and to wait until our change comes.
As most blacks were willing to bide their time, some began to fight back. In the late 1880s and 90s, they embarked on an uncertain campaign to secure voting rights. build their own communities, schools, businesses, and churches, and to demand redress against mob violence and lynching. The white supremacists fought back. By 1919, the Ku Klux Klan, which had been a Southern idiosyncrasy, became a national ideology. White supremacy, the power behind Jim Crow, appeared invincible. And over the next decade, the violence against blacks would grow even more horrific. But black Americans continued to battle, using the power of the press and ultimately the power of the courts to pursue their quest for freedom and equality against racism. The rise and fall of Jim Crow is their story. The story of strong men and women who would never accept the demeaning, threatening, and perilous world of Jim Crow. The rise and fall of Jim Crow is the story of those who, in the face of unending terror, achieved triumphs. Triumphs that would in time make America a better place, not just for themselves, but for all of us.
I wanted to point something out real quick. It said it was a Southern idiosyncrasy that became a national ideology. I don't know why we're not looking at, I'll say, the movement or the organization of the KKK, which began in Tennessee. Early 1900s, they rose to power against the freed black man or woman so that they can have a reign of terror. See, we don't have to look at terrorists abroad, past our borders. We have homegrown terrorists. And the lynchings and all these other different things, the burning down of our businesses and stuff like that, that was terrorism, okay? It's plain and simple. And somehow we want our rights for equality, okay? It's painting a picture of how, because we want our rights for equality, not just rights for equality as far as human rights and so forth, but we want rights as far as justice. And this is painting a picture to show you that they decided, no, we're going to fight against whatever you have to do to so-called rise up as a people. I'm painting a picture to let you all know they don't want us to rise up as, I'm not trying to say rise to power, but rise up as a people. In other words, don't stay down. We want to, lift us up, so to speak. We want to, move on and say, hey, we were slaves. Now let's move on. Let's become landowners. Let's get an education, and let's, we have businesses and make this world a better place, so to speak. Okay. So, of course they retaliated, and, Lincoln, basically he had some things in place. Congress put some things in place, 13th Amendment, and we're going to hear about that real brief.
At first, Abraham Lincoln saw the struggle as simply a war to save the nation. But in time, he would recast the Civil War as a war to end slavery. On January 1st, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing all slaves in the Confederate States. 6 months after the South surrendered, Congress ratified the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery. The federal government had made a promise to the former slaves, these newly freed men and women who knew what they wanted: education and the right to vote, equal rights in the courts, and mostly land.
Okay, that's all we wanted, So, you know what? I'm going to continue because I basically just said that. So just keep that in mind. We just basically want our rights. It's a basic human rights as being an American, okay? And the 13th Amendment, slavery was abolished everywhere in America, but they didn't take it too well. When I say they, I'm talking about the Southern white landowners. Let's keep it like that. Southern white landowners, okay? Continue. Oh, wait.
Lincoln had been assassinated, and a Southern...
Oh, sorry. Pause right quick. I have a correction. Last week, I had mentioned you had Abraham Lincoln, and then you had Andrew Jackson. I said Andrew Jackson over and over and over again. I'm not sure if you all caught that or if you did see the episode. His name is Andrew Johnson. Okay. That must have been one of those brain fart moments. Okay. It happens. Oh, and one more thing. I mentioned about the General Lee. The car has nothing to do with this, episode. But I mentioned that it was my wife and she was giving me signals. I mentioned that you remember the Confederate flag that's on the General Lee. I said it was on the hood. Everyone knows it's not on the hood. It's on the top of the car. Okay. But the thing is, she was trying to signal me to let me know Sherman's main nemesis was Hood, General Hood. The irony was there. So excuse me for that. Okay. Those are the two main corrections. Okay. Let's move on with this. Andrew Johnson.
Lincoln had been assassinated, and a Southerner, Andrew Johnson, was president. Johnson fought to save the Union, but not to free slaves. "This is a country for white men," he said, "and as long as I'm president, it will be a government for white men."
Y'all see that? That's how they view it. Okay, I get it. You got Southern whites, but I'm telling you, a lot of the white men of that day, and not just men, it was women, it was in their ideology. It was a national ideology. They, for the most part, all felt that way. This is a white man's country. And he said, as long as he's president, it's going to be a white man's government. I know this may seem a little insensitive because some people may think, oh, he shouldn't talk about race. Well, this is my show. If you don't like it, but I'm just saying, these are things that we need to bring out. If you think that we don't, give me a comment. You can break it down. You can explain it. I have no problem with that, but I want to talk about this. Okay, continue. Oh, real quick. Okay. This guy, he's a general, Union general, Oliver O. Howard. Okay. He was basically, this is after the war. Abraham Lincoln basically, got assassinated. And then you had Andrew Johnson basically letting him know, hey, I had all these so-called war criminals. And check this out. This is our dark past. And he basically gave them a pardon. Yes, he gave them all a pardon. But not only gave them a pardon, he gave them back their land. So he had Oliver O. Howard to tell the slaves, hey, you got to give up that land that we gave you. The 40 acres and the mule thing. Give it up and make peace with them, because we're going to give it back to those people that basically whipped you and scourged you and all that kind of stuff and did all kind of manners of stuff to you and despitefully used you. We're going to give that land back to them. That's what Andrew Johnson did. So Oliver Howard gave them the news. And of course they didn't take it too lightly. It was terrible. Can you imagine being stripped away the thing that you was given because, now you're free, you're a freed man? Didn't work out too well. So now we have what you call part of the Reconstruction. Okay. And basically they had to stay in their place. This is the black people. This is terrible. Continue.
1 year later, in 1866, Congress, recognizing continued Southern resistance to black emancipation, passed the 14th and 15th Amendments, guaranteeing blacks the right to vote and due process of law. The time of Reconstruction had begun, but many whites did not plan on fulfilling the intentions of the new laws. Mississippi passed a black code, giving courts the right to apprentice former slaves, with preference to their former owners.
The Negro is free whether we like it or not. For the purity and progress of both races, they must accept their place in the lower order of things. That place is the cotton fields of the South. Such is the rule of the plantation and the law of God. Governor Benjamin Humphreys.
See, that's their ideology. We need to stay in our place. I mean, I'm going to try to be calm about it, but I'm really upset right now. I know it happened in the past, but I keep seeing the evidences of it happening even now. This is pretty bad. We need to stay in our place. So even though we're free, how about this? we're free, but we need to stay in our place. So we took your land back that was originally ours, but we need for you all to work our land. Sharecroppers. Basically work our land, and you can rent it out, so to speak, and you give us a portion of what you work. That didn't work out too well. I'm pretty sure you heard countless stories about sharecroppers basically getting the butt end of the stick. So just keep that in mind too, because I was just thinking about how, we wanted to not stay so-called in our place. We wanted to rise up. I wish there was another term, but I don't think about rise. I don't mean rise to power. I mean, like, hey, we were here, slaves. Okay, now we're free. We get it. We're free. But the thing is, we don't want you all to so-called bamboozle us, and we sure don't want you all to harm us. We want to live together in this nation. That's supposed to be, the land of the free, home of the brave. Okay, continue.
If intimidation would not keep blacks in their place, then violence might. In the same year that Reconstruction began, Nathan Bedford Forrest, a Confederate general, founded the Ku Klux Klan. The image of the Klan in white hoods killing blacks by the light of burning crosses would forever be etched in the American mind.
The way white supremacists made sure that ex-slaves would fall back into place or nearly back into place was terror. Beating people up, burning down their houses, shooting them, just the usual physical mayhem of personal violence.
Yeah. Terrorism. This is terrorism. Terrorizing someone, that's terrorism. And then killing them, burning down their houses and their businesses and anything else they had. This is pretty bad. Okay, real quick, I want to mention how I said this last time. I said, why are you going to stay down south? Go west, young man, go west. We need to start thinking about moving away from them. Well, there was what you call an exodus. Now, not everybody was on board with this exodus. And some people were. Sojourner Truth, she was on board with that. And then where were they going? They were going to Kansas. Okay, so that means they're moving away from the South, and they're moving away from the so-called prejudiced white people that did not think that we should rise or have lands and businesses and homes and things of that nature. And so check this out.
Feeling trapped and helpless and in need of answers, some turned to an unlikely source, an old man who had been born in slavery.
We needed land for our children. That caused my heart to grieve in sorrow. Pity for my race caused me to work for them. Confidence has perished and faded away. We are going to leave the South. Pap Singleton.
In 1874, Pap Singleton, a former slave, would lead a group of 300 blacks to Kansas. John Brown struck his first blow against slavery there. God must be in Kansas, and black people wanted to go where God was. No one spoke this call stronger than Sojourner Truth.
I have prayed so long that my people would go to Kansas, and that God would make straight the way before them. This colored people is gonna be a people. Do you think God has them robbed and scourged all the days of their life for nothing?
Check this out. I'm not here to hate on anybody. Not any of our black history leaders or anything like that. But I'm going to paint a picture because something happened during that time. This was so-called that exodus to Kansas. Sojourner Truth. I mean, well-respected black woman that basically was in favor of this. She prayed for it. I'm all on board with her on that. Remember I said go west and, leave? But there was some person that was not on board with that, in case you all did not know this. Okay. Frederick Douglass. He was not on board with this. Yeah, he was not. He said in so many words, hundreds of you all, our people, going to Kansas. But look at all the thousands of people, our people, staying right here where we already established. I'm looking at it like, I get it. You thinking maybe we should stay here and make our place. Because he's thinking, America, we need to deal with this thing head on. So the prejudice and all that discrimination and equal rights, we need to deal with all that right here head on in the South. I'm telling you, sometimes you gotta be wise as a serpent, yet harmless as a dove. I don't think that was his forte. Okay, and I'm not knocking Frederick Douglass because there's a lot Frederick Douglass talked about. He stood up for human rights. He was a major abolitionist. I mean, of course, black people got to be abolitionists, right? But he was a promoter of that, very big proponent of that, and he let it be known. Very good. I got that. But if there's got to be an exodus for us to move away from captivity, remember, it ain't just in slavery. We're held in captivity. We're against our will, so to speak, where some people wanted to stay. Fine. That's cool. Some people wanted to leave. Fine. That's cool. Man, so drawing the truth, I was on board with that. I think that was great because when they moved there, I get it. This is what happened. You had what you call some hard times. We moving to Kansas. Everyone knows that they seen the Wizard of Oz. We know we talking about the tornadoes and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what happened. It was a lot of that. I get it. But you know what? They weathered the storm. They hung out and they did their job and they made their place in Kansas. I mean, which one is worse? I don't know. I'm the type of person, I'll go out fighting, Maybe not everyone's like that. But just keep that in mind, But there was some other places down south. And this is one of the places I thought it was so cool because it was like, was it the Pearl of the Delta? Let's check it out.
There were islands of hope. One was in the Mississippi Delta, a town called Mound Bayou.
There was no other place for me other than Mound Bayou. To me, it was the greatest place around. People could, we have our own officers. I didn't have to walk down the street afraid.
This was something was unbelievable in this very racial conscious era where there was so few opportunities other than manual labor for black people.
We had everything in Mount Bayou that heart could desire. We had oil mills, we had stores, we had bottle works, we had hospitals, we had zoos, we had swimming pools. We had a lot of things that people would enjoy.
Mound Bayou was founded in 1887 by black businessman Isaiah T. Montgomery, a Southern man with a simple philosophy. It's a white man's country. Let them run it.
I'm sorry. Hey, he just keeping it real. It is a white man's company. Let them run it. Oh, I don't know if you all heard of this. What's that? Mount Bayou? This place was the bomb in a good way. Like, they even had swimming pools. They had it all. They had their own hospitals, their own police. I'm sorry. That sounds like, wow. It's like, and this was down south. This is amazing. Can you imagine a place like that during that time? Where all this segregation, this Jim Crow starting up, and you got this place that we are segregated. We're going to stay away from you all. We got our own little paradise on earth and down south. I don't know. I mean, I wish there were more places like that. I mean, from what I heard, they had the Tulsa project. Remember Tulsa? But that turned out pretty bad. I don't know if everyone knows about that, but that was pretty bad. I'm not going to go into detail about that. But I'm sorry. No, I'm not sure. Oh, thank you. I don't know if you heard that. That was my wife. Oklahoma. Now I might even edit that out. Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? Yes. I think I made a mistake and said that on another video. Regardless, they had their own little paradise in this Mount Bayou. This was amazing. It was like the Pearl of the Delta. They had, like I said, they had their own police, hospitals, all kinds of cool stuff. Their own community. It was the bomb. Really good. It's just amazing because they had what you call a representative, a delegate. Okay, what's his name? What was his name? Isaiah Montgomery. Okay, but I'm not gonna explain. I'm not gonna explain Isaiah Montgomery yet, because I want you all to see this place that they had. You would think, okay, was it similar to what happened with Kansas? They had to basically travel. They had to weather the storm, and it was some rough times. Well, let's check it out real quick. Let's see.
The Delta of Mississippi in the mid-1880s was nothing more than a wilderness. These black people who came to the Mountain Bayou area had to cut down trees, had to drain bayous, had to build up the land, had to fight off wild animals and snakes, and they lived as frontiersmen lived throughout the world.
Day by day, a town began to take shape. Churches, a post office, and schools replaced the forest.
My grandmother was Ada Simmons. She came here from Virginia. She wanted other than what she had been doing, the slavery and the people telling them what to do. She had in her mind that there must be something else. There must be something that was, better than what she was living under.
Unlike some black communities, the whites did not come in and destroy the community like some instances of other black communities. I believe because there was a notion that a separation of the races was an answer to the race problem.
I think that's what some people were thinking. Maybe this separation was the answer to the race problem. Would you want to be around people that don't want to be around you? That's something to think about. I mean, I don't know about you all, but the biblical principle about wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, it goes like that. Be wise as a serpent. Let's not ruffle the feathers, or, let's not make any waves where we can, avoid that, let's go elsewhere. At the same time, let's not up anything that they like the thing was, those white people, they had all kinds of emotions going on. One in particular was fear. They were afraid of us. I know some people say, no, we're not. Well, think about it. They didn't want us to get out of our place. Look at the weight of evidence. When we got out of our place, in other words, when we started becoming educated and things of that nature, they were like, wait a minute, these people are moving in a direction that makes us feel like they shouldn't move in that direction. They can rise to power and stuff like that, which we did. We had black congressmen and things of that nature, black business owners. You saw the guy from Mountain Bayou. I mean, come on, businessmen. We had bankers and all kinds of stuff. Black people, okay? Successful, educated. The thing is, when the white people saw that, they were threatened. Okay, I'm just spelling it out. And that was a bad thing. But the thing is, this Mountain Bayou thing didn't come just overnight. They had to work it. Like the bayous, that's the water, like the swamp area. They had to drain the swamp, so to speak. They had to clear the land. Wild animals, snakes, and things of that nature. They worked that. I mean, I have no problem with hard work. It's just amazing, because if people would think about the struggles of our kind, black people, especially back in the day, they would be like, wow, you know what? Y'all went through hell on earth, and commend us for what we did, because we had to put up with people who hated us so much that we had to make a decision. I'm talking about everyone, but some of us said we need to move away from you all. I commend those people. I really do, because you don't want to make waves. You want to be biblical principled, Some people stayed though. So let's think about that too. Now, this Isaiah Montgomery guy, okay, he was their delegate, okay, to represent them. I don't have all the details on that. Even when I saw this episode, it wasn't quite clear, but all I know is that this is clear. When he went as a delegate for the Mountain Bayou people, he basically explained to them that, hey, I want to vote. What was that? I want to vote that illiterate black people can't vote. I don't know how you all look at that, but let's just say about not, this is so weird because this is a very controversial point. If you're illiterate and you can't read, of course, then how can you vote? But you want them to vote. Well, maybe we should, I'm talking about the government and so forth, educate them so they could know the Constitution and know their rights, Bill of Rights and everything else for that matter, the preamble, that's basically the Constitution in a nutshell, and learn about that, be able to read, give them a chance so they can vote and say, yes, I have a right to vote. That's kind of my take. That's just me. I mean, I don't speak for everyone, but I'm just letting you all know, I get the point about why would you, vote against the concept of somebody who's illiterate should not be able to vote, but you should be able to read. Just like when you go to school, you got to know the Constitution. So I don't know. That's why I need comments from you all to see, because this is a very touchy situation. But just check out what happened with Isaiah Montgomery.
Isaiah Montgomery, burning with desire to protect Mound Bayou from white intervention, agreed to vote in favor of an amendment to keep illiterates from voting. The law's real meaning was clear.
There is no use to equivocate or lie about the matter. Mississippi's Constitutional Convention was held for no other purpose than to eliminate the nigger from politics. Not the ignorant, but the nigger. James Vardaman.
So it wasn't about the illiteracy. They don't want any black person to have any power to vote. Period. That's what the bottom line was. And these are so-called officials that basically said that. Now we get it. Now we understand. See what I'm saying? The wool is off of our eyes. We kind of get it now. You just don't want us to have anything to do with legislation or to vote, for our rights or anything. You don't want us to have nothing. You want us to stay in our place. When I say you, I don't mean you. I mean whoever you are that thinks that way. There you go. I think I said it the right way. Whoever you are that thinks that way. Because I don't know. I can't read your mind. Only God knows the heart, But I'm picking up that whoever thinks that way right now, that black people should stay in their place. They should not be able to vote. They should not have certain rights. We shouldn't have law enforcement that protects and serves the black person. We should have the right to bear arms, but not the black person. I mean, it could be, the list goes on and on, because I'm telling you, there are some people, I'm sorry. How many people? 70 million Americans that think that way? Oh, somebody say, oh, you can't say that. Well, why not? Because their leader thinks that way. I mean, even his own niece said, yes, many racial slurs. I don't see no reason why she would lie about that. So as far as I'm concerned, you have a racist leader that thinks that way, and you voted for this racist leader that thinks this way. That means you also think that way, because our leader thinks that way. I'm sorry, that's how I think. If you think that's being subjective, well then leave a comment. Okay, let's continue on with the so-called, this last part, because not everybody was on board with what he did, that vote. I look at it like this. The white people back then, they didn't want us and no part of us to do anything. But at the same time, I see what his thing was. Isaiah Montgomery basically just kind of like went along with the flow, not to ruffle any feathers or make any waves. Okay, I don't know what he could have done. Let's say he did stand up and then they shot him in the head and that would have been it. But the thing is, here you go again, Frederick Douglass, he called him a traitor. I don't know about that. I don't know if he was a traitor. Maybe if you was in his shoes, maybe you would see it differently. I don't know. Maybe leave a comment, because I'm looking at it like, I like Frederick Douglass. He's all good. But for some reason, there were other people that we needed to look at also. Just because he's a black civil rights leader doesn't mean that he's for all, he speaks for all of us. You got Sojourner Truth. You got Harriet Tubman. And then you got this bad boy, in my opinion, Booker T. Washington. Let's check this out right quick. Booker T. Washington.
While many black leaders like Douglass were outraged by Montgomery's vote. Booker T. Washington was not. By the 1890s, Washington's reputation as a spokesperson and fundraiser for Tuskegee was growing.
Booker T. Washington spoke in a language that everyone could understand. He had something for working class blacks, he had something for middle class blacks. He was able to, therefore, to control black businessmen. He was able to control black churchmen who admired the gospel success that he was articulating. And he was able to win the admiration of working class blacks who saw that all other alternatives had now been essentially exhausted.
Booker was nobody's fool. The Carnegies and the other benefactors of Tuskegee would not have contributed a dime if he, at that moment, had offered a threat to the existence that these wealthy white men were perpetuating.
Oh, see, I gotta break this down real quick. I hope I can do this quick. Okay. So, Booker T. Washington, no, the Tuskegee, he basically had the so-called concept to say, we need to be educated. I mean, our people need to be educated. But he had benefactors. Remember, Carnegie. This is old money. Have you ever heard the term old money? This is old money. These people who got money. But the thing is, they ain't gonna give you, this Negro, any money unless it benefits them. Remember, benefactor. So the bottom line is, he could not seem a threat or his project to seem threatening. Booker T. Washington said, I want to educate our people so that we, here you go, so that we can do a better job. There was one one historian said, mentioning about how the slave owner would be like, why does my cook, slave, or should I say servant in this case, they're black woman, why does she have to learn how to cook? She can just spit in the pan to tell if it's hot. Yes. Now this is him saying it. The black person spitting in the pan to tell if it's hot. I thought that was a tad bit odd. But the thing is, Booker T. Washington is saying, hey, I basically am teaching her how to cook better. So you can have some skill. So she won't have to spit in the pan to tell if it's hot. Education 101. They had it in spades. I'm talking about the Tuskegee Institute was amazing. They learned all kinds of stuff. And I don't have this, but when you all go to that this video, the rise and fall of Jim Crow, I'm telling you, it's going to break it all down. I don't have time to bring all those details, but they had pretty much everything. We learned it and we can learn. And it was mainly to be a better worker so that the white people could benefit. If we work more, we can be more efficient, cover more ground or whatever else we have to do. Of course, they'll be happy. That's great, right? But the thing is, he had teachers. I don't know her name, but you'll check out the video. One of the teachers said, you know what? We need to educate our people beyond just the basic skills, like farming and agriculture and industrial stuff. We need to teach them how to become bankers, scientists, stuff like that. And learning German and all kinds of languages and stuff, So Tuskegee Institute was the bomb as far as learning institute. Man, it was great. And so Booker T basically was saying, you know what? We got to learn how to crawl before we walk. Or how about this? We need to learn how to walk, because it's the walk. We need to learn how to walk before we run. But we need to learn how to crawl before we walk. And I think that was his focus. So we can't expect change overnight. But what he did was amazing, because I'm telling you, Carnegie and all the benefactors would not have given him a chance if he did not have it so they can have some benefit. But what happened was, during that time, there were so many killings. I'm talking about, the lynchings and stuff like that. But then Booker T went down there. It was I forgot what the name of the event was. Do you remember? Y'all can check out the video. But when he went down there, he spoke. Okay, he was like a keynote speaker type of thing. Got on that stage And man, the white people booed the mess out of him. Boo, boo, boo. They didn't want him, right? They're like, look at this nigger on the stage. That's what they were saying. So he was looking at it like, you know what? I got something to say. So basically, he was speaking to them, white people, and the black people. Because the crowd was big. It was like white and black. That matter of fact, they were telling him, as well as anybody who want to come down to this convention thing, y'all going to come down here and y'all going to see, we got to do what we got to do, but at the same time, we understand that you got to do what you got to do. You know, we understand about so-called, we need to be apart. Now, I know people probably thinking, well, are you talking about segregation is okay? I'm saying, if we look at our dark past, and we stop looking at different terms, then we will say, it's just a term. But let's understand. Remember, life is a lesson. Learn from it. Then we can learn from it and understand, wait a minute. You mean to tell me Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington were at odds? Yeah. Sojourner Truth and Frederick Douglass? Yeah. Not everybody was on the same page, but at the same time, I get it. Everybody had something to say. But when you weigh it out, according to the weight of evidence, I'm telling you right now, I think Booker T had the right idea. Because after his speech, boom, everybody was on board. Who was on board? The white people. Women were throwing roses on the stage. It was crazy. Even the black people had tears in their eye. I'm not doing a justice to this. You all need to see this. It's amazing. This episode alone, I mean, I can go into other episodes, but this episode alone basically brings out this dark history that we had. And I didn't even bring out all the elements because remember, why did the lynching really happen? I got to bring this point out. I believe it's still based upon fear. They looked at us like we should stay in our place. I feel personally that we should be nonviolent, I guess. I don't want to preach nonviolence. I just want to preach biblical principle, you know, where we're supposed to be following Jesus Christ wherever he goes. You know, I believe in turning the other cheek, but I don't believe in being a pushover. And people will know that. I'm not a pushover. But at the same time, I don't believe in retaliating. I don't believe that we should so-called hold a grudge. This is not Christian-like, but you'd be surprised. Not just white people, black people and all other nationalities. They'll hold a grudge and they'll have different ideology to say, you shouldn't be like this or you shouldn't have this. And a lot of people think that way. We all got to check ourselves. That's the reason why we have a walk assessment. Okay, so right now, let's think about it. Examine yourself to see if you're in the faith. I remember one of those little segments talking about they're doing it for the Lord. Really? No, you're not doing it for the Lord. You're doing it for your own self and your own selfish ideology. We got to be reminded that we're all in this thing together. We are our brother's keeper. Everybody is created equal. If you don't remind yourself that we're all created equal, remind yourself that God, vengeance is his. Now, if you do harm to your brother, think about it. And your brother is basically praying for the Lord to protect them, that they may be free from all hurt, harm, and danger. And you hurt them, and vengeance is his. You can bet your bottom dollar, vengeance is his. Because a lot of people out here doing some bad things. You thinking about just physical harm? No, I'm talking about mental harm, emotional harm, all that kind of harm. You know, we need to check ourselves to see whose side we really on. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's either God's side or the enemy's side. Are you truly an American? See, I believe this channel is dedicated to us being Christians and Americans, God and country. It's just that simple. I don't believe in politics, but I believe in, hey, we're all supposed to be civil. You know, we got civil rights. We're in this country together. Somehow this country represents a melting pot, a smorgasbord of immigrants. I hate to say this, but the black people are the only ones, from what I've gathered, are not true immigrants. Why do people keep thinking we were immigrants? We were drugged over here on ship. Matter of fact, some of us didn't even want to come over here so bad that we drowned ourselves. It was so bad that we did not want to be in chains and enslaved. This is a bad thing. And if we forget the past, we can actually repeat the past. Oh, I'm sorry. We're repeating the past now. Look at how we're being treated right now. Now, we talked about how this this dark past was in the past with our forefathers. And they just basically did not want to think of it as what it really was. You know, this cognitive dissonance thing. But then here you have so-called the Civil War. But before Civil War, we had secession. They wanted to say, we want to be our own little country. You know, I'm looking at it like, could that be a bad thing? I don't know. All I know is that somehow who didn't want to be up in your country, we should have been able to leave. But I get it. Abraham Lincoln wanted to keep the Union and the United States together. Hey, he the president. But the thing is, it was a bloody war. Now you're thinking, after all of that blood, thousands upon thousands of our brethren, Americans, South and North, died. For what purpose? They died because they wanted to keep slavery, and the North wanted to so-called end slavery so we can be our brother's keeper. But the bottom line is, after that, we had what you call the cold Civil War. I said it, and I'm going to say it again. The cold Civil War. Yes. Now, are we really for God and for country? Are we checking ourselves here? Because I'm letting you all know this is a serious thing. This country is divided. This walk assessment is good because it's not just for this channel, it's for you at home. Think about these things, you know? But I'm letting you know right now, black people right now, if you're not doing it right now, we need to think about it. And not just black people, all Christians, all so-called Christians. We need to all ring out with our hearts that we shall overcome someday. That's going to be our hymn to him. We want to overcome because they said they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. The word of your testimony. Think about it. Your testimony. What's your testimony? My testimony is that I'm overcoming by the blood of the Lamb and by my own testimony. The fact that I follow the Lamb wherever he goes. I'm my brother's keeper. I am a Christian and I am an American. I'm a patriot. That's how I feel. You know what? Let's check this song out. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. I usually put the author there. Do you have that? I'm gonna have to show that later. I'm sorry. Okay, let's sing. Let me get some atmosphere. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. I like this one. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Amen. Now for a taste of things to come. I could not cover civil rights. I could not do it. You see, we kind of went over time with this one, but next week we are. Now, what event kicked off the civil rights movement? I want to hear a comment, someone, because I could put the answer up there. What event kicked off the civil rights movement? That's like a trivia question. So anyway, just remember, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, share, comment, and send us an email if you happen to be so inclined. You know, it is number 4. endure to be saved @gmail.com. Just remember, I love you all. Please be safe. My hope and prayer is that you have a closer walk with your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And see you next week.